Charni, Nirasesa Sunivadi Paschadistani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam today. This is the 8th canto, chapter 3, Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. This is text number 18. Atmatma Japta Griha Vita Janeshu Shaktar Dusprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Muktatmabi Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishvaraya Atmatma Japta Griha Vitti Janeshu Shaktar Dusprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarchitaya Muktatma Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishvaraya Atmatma Japta Grihavritti Janeshu Shaktar Dusprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Muktatma Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishvaraya Atmatma Japta Grihavritti Janeshu Shaktar Dusprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Muktatma Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishvaraya Atmatma Japta Grihavitti Janeshu Shaktar Dusprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Muktatma Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishvaraya Atmatma Japta Grihavitti Janeshu Shaktar Dusprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Muktatma Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishvaraya Atmatman japta griha vitti janeshu shaktar. Patanaya mejasan pemehastitaya. Muktatma biswahidaye paribhavitaya. Gyanatmane bhagavate nama ishvaraya. Vaishnavis. Matman. Atma, the mind and body. Atmaja, sons and daughters. Apta, friends and relatives. Griha, home, community, society and nation. Vita, wealth. Janeshu, to various servants and assistants. Shaktai, by those who are too attached. Dusprapanaya, unto you, who are very difficult to achieve. Gunasanga, by the three modes of material nature. Vivarjitaya, who are not contaminated. Mukta Atmavi, by persons who are already liberated. Swahridaye, within the core of the heart. Paribhavitaya, unto you who are always meditated upon. Jnana Atmane, the reservoir of all enlightenment. Bhagavate, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namaha, I offer my respectful obeisances. Ishvaraya, unto the Supreme Controller. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the cores of their hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction, home, relatives, friends, money, servants, and assistants. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes into the material world, he is unaffected by the modes of material nature. This is confirmed in Ishopanishad, apapavidham. He is not contaminated. This same fact is described here. Guna Sangha Vivarchitaya. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears as an incarnation within this material world, he is unaffected by the modes of material nature. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9:11, Avajananti mam mudha, manushim tanum ashritam. Foolish men with insufficient knowledge deride the personality of Godhead because he appears just like a human being. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood only by the muktatma, the liberated soul. Muktatabi swahridaye paribhavitaye. Only the liberated person can constantly think of Krishna. Such a person is the greatest of all yogis. Yoginam api sarvesham margatenan tarantmana Shradavan bhajate yomam same yuktatmano mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksus Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upagamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakopa Tubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patitadam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So the verse again. My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the cores of their hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction, home, relatives, friends, money, servants, and assistants. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So this is one of my favorite pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, if you go in my office, you'll see on the side of the bookcase there's a picture of Gajendra holding up a flower to Hari. So it's very, very encouraging lessons throughout this whole pastime in this special section of the Bhagavatam. So in these particular prayers, we're hearing so many wonderful names of Krishna. Krishna has unlimited names because he has unlimited qualities. Just like there's unlimited waves in the ocean or a river. So in the same way, Krishna has unlimited names. So we've been hearing a lot of them in these prayers, and today there's a few mentioned here too. There's Guna Sangha Vivarjitaya. He's completely free and unaffected by the modes of material nature. And there's another one here, Paribhavitaya. You are meditated upon. Jnana Atmane. You're the reservoir of all enlightenment. Bhagavate, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Ishvaraya, he's the Supreme Controller. So there's so many, and you could give a class on each one of those topics. So Srila Prabhupada, he focused in his purport on this one quality, Guna Sangha Vivarjitaya, that is beyond the three modes of material nature. So we're seeing how Gajendra, we're understanding that actually this Gajendra is actually us. We are now in the jaws of the crocodile, of time, of this material energy, which is Durga. And it's an ocean of material energy. But this ocean, Srila Prabhupada describes, is not cooling. It's actually burning. It's like fire. So this is what our position right now is. We're burning in this fire of material existence. And to save ourselves, just like Gaudacandra, for thousands of years he was trying to struggle to get away from this crocodile. In so many different ways, adjusting. In the same way, we are trying to make adjustments in the material world. Like different philosophies. There's Prabhupada mentions Mayavadi philosophy, Jnanis, Yogis, Karmis. In so many ways, taking shelter of these things, thinking that they will protect us or save us. Or also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this crocodiles is described as the crocodile of different philosophies in the material world. We're devoured by them. They actually destroy us. So Lord Chaitanya warned us not to even hear Mayavadi philosophy. It's like a crocodile. It will destroy you. So this material energy is very bewildering. It makes people make mistakes. Like one may think, there's two mistakes. You could say one may think an ordinary person is God. We've seen that so many places. They think this personality is God, but that's a mistake. Or they may make another mistake of think that God is an ordinary person. And Prabhupada describes him here as the mudhas. In the Bhagavad Gita, he quotes that verse. Or one may think also that he's formless. He doesn't have any qualities. He doesn't have a personality. He doesn't have beauty. He can't see. He can't talk. So in other words, they're very offensive, thinking that God is dumb, blind, and like that. So Prabhupada quotes the seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, how the material nature is constituted of these three modes, and everyone in the universe is under that spell. But yet, because they're under the spell, they think that Krishna is also under the spell. Like the analogy of the intoxicated person. He's completely intoxicated. He's walking around saying all kinds of crazy things and doing stupid things. But yet he's thinking that he's sober and everyone else is intoxicated. So this is the influence under the spell of this intoxication. He's thinking like that. But Krishna is so attractive, he's so beautiful and is so powerful and it's so obvious to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna may say, why is it that so many people aren't attracted to you? You're the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're supposed to attract everyone. So why? Why is that people aren't attracted to him? It's because they're under the spell of the three modes of material nature. Krishna is like a magician. He's actually keeping us bewildered. And there's different modes that we're bewildered under. The different characteristics, like we're under the mode of goodness. We're actually controlled by discrimination and righteousness. These are the characteristics of the mode of goodness. You can discriminate, or you have a sense of righteousness. Or if you're under the spell of passion, you feel pride and desire. Or if you're under the mode of ignorance, then it's inertia and degradation. But Krishna describes that even the mode of goodness, were under the spell of material nature. Because people in the mode of goodness, they may still not think of Krishna as a person. They may think he's some kind of energy, some kind of impersonal thing. But they're all under the spell of the material nature. So as it's hinted here, that we actually have to be blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee to understand him. In the 11th canto, it's described how it's very difficult to understand the Supreme Lord. He appears and he disappears just like an ordinary human being. Like Krishna Balaram appears like two little boys in Vrindavan. And he's performing so many pastimes and just acting like a kid. And it's bewildering to foolish people. They think, oh, just a normal kid. Even bewildering to Lord Brahma, right? He tried to test him and see. So this is Krishna. He's a very magical person. He's like a magician. There's Srila Vishnavath Thakur, mentions about this great magician one time. He went to see a king. And it describes here how this Gajendra is so attached to all his wealth and properties and so many things. So this magician came up to the king and he said, see all these coins you have? He said, you can't have them. And he made them disappear. And he said, see all these nice clothes and everything? He goes, you can't have them. And he made them disappear. And even his daughters. He said, you have these such nice daughters, but finished. So he was taking everything away from the king that way. And he says, I'm depressed. I don't want to live anymore. So he sits and he creates a flame and he destroys himself and he's poof, gone in smoke. And the king's like, wow, bewildered. What's going on? What's happening here? I mean, he committed suicide right in front of me. He took my daughters and all my wealth and my clothes. So what happened? So he was just bewildered, and it's right in front of the assembly. All the people saw all this happening. So he was just wondered, what happened? And then a couple of days later, this young girl comes and says, oh, my dear king, here's all the coins and the clothes and everything that my father had taken from you. And by the way, my father says he's very healthy and hearty at home. And also, here's your daughters. You can have everything back. So this is the magician. So Srila Vishnavath Chakravarti Thakur says that if a mere common person can do this, just think what Krishna can do. He has us bewildered in this material world, thinking, I'm this body, I'm this king, I'm this elephant, like that. But even in time, I don't know if he's still alive, there's this famous magician, his name is Pichi Shakar. He was actually performing for Prabhupada. He was a famous magician. In fact, he was famous. He actually made the Taj Mahal disappear. He was that good. So he was doing all these different tricks, making things disappear and do things in front of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was, enjoying it very nice. He was having a good time. He was being entertained and he was smiling like that. And the devotees were thinking, oh, should we, let him continue? But Prabhupada just was watching him do so many different things. And Prabhupada said, afterwards he asked him, Prabhupada was laughing, having a good time. And he said, Pichi Shakar, can you make the cycle of birth and death disappear? Like you're making all these things disappear? And he's like, no, Swamiji, that magic only you can do, told Prabhupada. He said, I'm only a common magician of this material world, but you can do that. So this is the power of the devotee. So if you take shelter of Krishna or his devotee, you can become liberated. As we heard this morning, Savas was reading about how the Bhakti Vedantas, they're more powerful than the Ganges and the holy rivers. Like that. So it's amazing. So this is the Krishna's Maya. It's described in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. But Krishna's deluding potency is so powerful that some people, even though they may see Krishna, like Duryodhana, he actually saw Krishna in his universal form. But yet Krishna had bewildered him so much with his magical powers, his mystical powers, that even though he was in front of Krishna, he saw his universal form. And he said, even if Krishna has created everything, and even if Krishna can destroy everything just by lifting his eyebrow, he goes, still I'll never surrender to him. So just see how bewildered one can become, like Duryodhana. So we have to get free somehow or another. This is a very powerful thing. There's a real crude example of how, like nowadays, everyone protects their home with dog, or many dogs. Sometimes there'll be a sign, beware of dogs, because they're afraid that they might get broken into or steal things like that. So a friend may come over and see his other friend, and he'll be afraid of the dog. Like we used to, in our childhood, we had this dog. His name was Tiger. He was a big German Shepherd. And in those days, you didn't have to keep him on leash. So he thought he actually owned and controlled our whole block. So, we had a pretty peaceful block. But he would just, anybody would come around and he would just, like that. Or sometimes my friends would even come over, or my brother's friends. And, because it was his dog, sometimes the dog would, you call out the dog, Tiger, called in, and he would just stop, right? But sometimes on purpose he'll say, sick him, like Tiger, sick him. So you go attack his friend, like that. So this is a crude example, but how Krishna, he's like the owner of this material Durga, this tiger, Durga, material energy. And he can call her off. Like you could just call your friend, hey, I'm coming over, can you just call your dog down and just say, hey, sit down. So then you can go and you can have a peaceful time with your friend. So this is Krishna. He can actually call off Durga, this material energy, very powerful energy. And we can cross over this material nature. Simply as if you're walking over the hoof print of a calf, the water in that. That's what this big ocean becomes like. So this is Krishna. But these dogs of the material world, they're like demigods. And Krishna says, or Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam, that how can you cross the ocean by holding on to the tail of a dog? Right? A dog may swim a little bit, but if you try to hold on to that tail, there's no way you could get loose. So that's impossible. So there's some very nice points that Srila Prabhupada referred to, that the yogi, that he concentrates his attention on Krishna. He's the first class personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada mentions how his attraction to Krishna, who is called Shama Sundar, who has beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded, illuminating all sides in his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahmajyotir. So he incarnates as different forms, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Vraha, and some people think of him as a human being, but actually he's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna, not only does he expand himself and appear in this material world in his different incarnations, I mean, they're unlimited. We know the major ones, the 10 major incarnations of Krishna. But he appears also as the deity form, and there's no difference between Krishna and his deity form. So I found this really cool verse which actually shows the position of the yogi. This was Lord Vishnu's instructions to Ambarish Maharaj. And it's quoted from the Vishnu Dharma Upapurana. And it says, absorbing your mind completely in the deity, you should give up all other shelter and consider the deity your intimate well-wisher. You should mentally worship him and meditate upon him while you walk, while you stand, while you sleep and eat. You should see the deity in front of you, behind, above, below, and on both sides. In this way, you should constantly remember my deity form. So this is the importance of the deity, because it's Krishna. It's not different than Krishna. So this is the real yogi. And there's another nice quote where Prabhupada talks about the worshipable form, the Archa Vigraha, which actually more and more brings out and confirms this point. This is from the Ishopanishad. In Prabhupada's purport, he said, "The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna, and Krishna expands himself into an unlimited number of forms, such as Baladev, Rama, Nrsimha, and Vraha. All of these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha worshipped in temples is also an expanded form of the Lord. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharyas, the holy teachers, and works exactly in the original way of the Lord by virtue of the Lord's omnipotency. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Ishopanishad or any of the other Shruti mantras consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotees, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanishta Adhikaris. But such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires." So just see the mystic power of Krishna. So there's also another quote. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, which on the same point, Prabhupada quotes the Mayavadis. They actually quote the Srimad Bhagavatam from that one verse that says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in every living entity, to prove their Mayavadi philosophy. But Jiva Goswami points out that he says that Krishna, in his plenary expansions as Paramatma, is situated in the moving and the non-moving entities as the Supersoul. So any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, and does not respect other living entities, is uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. A devotee should see that because Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma, everybody is the embodiment or the temple of the Supreme Lord. So as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and everybody in which the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected. Some very important points on this matter. And then I'll end with these quotes from the 11th canto, which really brings up the point of how powerful Krishna and his devotees are. This is from the 11th canto, 11th chapter, text number 48. "My dear Uddhava, I am personally the ultimate shelter and way of life for saintly liberated persons. And thus, if one does not engage in my loving devotional service, which is made possible by associating with my devotees, then for all practical purposes, one possesses no effective means for escaping from material existence." So this is really important. And even in this pastime, Gajendra actually, and the crocodile was liberated. And in a lecture, Prabhupada mentions how because Gajendra was, the alligator, the crocodile, was indirectly attached to the feet of a devotee. That's why he got liberated also from this dangerous position. So this is the power of the devotees' association. So here in that purport, they quote some very nice quotes from Vishnavath Chakravarti Thakur, and then one from Uddhava, and then one from Narada Muni. I'll end with these 3 verses. It's very powerful. So it says, "My dear Lord, for one who is being cruelly burned in the blazing fire of material miseries, having fallen to the network of material existence, I do not see any other possible shelter besides your 2 lotus feet, which are a shower of nectar, extinguishing the fire of suffering." And then another one here from the material existence is like an ocean that is extremely difficult to cross. The conditioned souls have fallen into this ocean, which is not cool, but rather burns them with the fire of misery. For one who has fallen into this sea and desires to get out, There is no other rescue boat except the constant relishing within oneself of the pastime narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then the last one. What is the use of the yoga system, philosophical speculation, mere renunciation of the world, or Vedic studies? In fact, what is the use of any so-called auspicious process without Lord Krishna, who is the source of our very existence? Jai. So thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments? Jai. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. Thank you for your kind attention. Okay. Here's the mic.
So you mentioned, actually you quote one sloka from the Shastras that it says that the Lord descend because of the petition of the Acharya, and takes the form of the deity. So when the deities are not installed by Acharyas, pure bodies, do the worship of those deities have the same effect?
No. I don't think so.
Because like for example, this deity was installed by Siddhanta, this was Prabhupada installed this deity, or this deity was worshipped by, okay, and in general the bhaktas, the devotees, will give like a wow,
Yeah.
but when the deity is not installed by those pure devotees, it's installed by another devotees. So how is that? How
Oh, you mean like a different devotee? That's not a pure devotee, but it's installed?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be any difference because the devotee sincerely calls Krishna to come in that form.
So you say in the text says the Acharya, by the petition of the Acharya.
Yeah.
So
It has to be an Acharya.
So what is the difference of a deity that was installed by Acharya and deity that was not installed by Acharya?
If that devotee was under an Acharya and he did that, then it's same tendency.
Okay.
But if it's just someone that doesn't have an Acharya, he calls him a self-made
What do you
Acharya.
mean disciple succession?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're in the disciple succession. That's how I would see it.
Okay. Also, and then the other question is, you say that Paramatma is present within any moving and not moving element.
Yeah.
So Paramatma is here in this state.
In every atom. He's everywhere. He's everything. Yeah.
Paramatma is here.
That's why just saying, oh, Krishna is just there, but you disrespect somebody, or even disrespect Krishna's property.